Hey friends, so this is the first episode of my new YouTube channel called Christians Make Bad Art. So for most of my life, I've lived at the intersection of Christianity and art. I grew up in a family that was very musical. Both my parents were professional musicians. I used to go on tour with my dad. My mom has been in theater and toured as well. So I grew up in the art world, whether it was photography or film, or even fine arts. You know, there's a lot that I was involved in for most of my life. And then on the other side, I grew up in the church as well. My grandpa was a worship director at a Lutheran church. I bounced between a Covenant church and a Quaker church and was involved on the worship teams and in the drama. And my mom also worked in a church as a drama director. And so for my whole life, I've been completely immersed in the worlds of Christianity and art. And what I've found is that intersection, it's not always a beautiful collision. Like it's kind of tough sometimes, these two worlds, when they come together. You know, I grew up, when I was a kid, I grew up in like the early 2000s, and when you were a Christian in those times, like, you didn't listen to secular music because it was evil. So I only listened to Christian music. I tried to only read Christian books, and really it was all things Christian. I didn't dabble in things that didn't eventually preach the gospel, so to say. But then there was this time where my cousin Reed, when I think we were freshmen in high school, he won tickets on the radio to go see some bands in downtown Denver, and he had an extra ticket, so he invited me. And so I decided on a whim to go, and the bands were the band that was headlining was Story of the Year. My Chemical Romance was there before they got really famous, and I just remember like asking him, when he asked me, hey, do you want to go to this concert? One of my first questions was, well, are they Christian bands? I mean, that was my default place to go. But anyway, he told me no, and so we went anyway, and I was just blown away by how good these bands were. Like, they were so good. I had never heard music at that level. Like, the Christian bands I was listening to were not as good as these bands. And so that started this total path where I just kind of started exploring the secular world when it came to art. And kind of the conclusion I came up with as I got older was, man, Christians kind of make bad art. The music isn't that great. It's kind of shallow and kind of, I just didn't like it. And even the the movies, I don't know if you've all watched old school Christian movies, like, they're not great. But as I got older and I started like writing and recording my own songs and watching other films and kind of getting into the world, is, you know, I don't think that Christians make bad art. I think that it's harder to find, and I think that a lot of good Christian artists are kind of in hiding, because the art world doesn't really accept Christians very well, and on the other side, the church does not accept good artists very well. The church does not have a lot of room for art, and the art world does not have a lot of room for Christians. So what do we do with that? How do we change that? How do we open up the conversation to do something different? So that's the whole idea of this YouTube channel, is I want to interview local artists. I want to interview Christian artists. I want to talk to non-believing artists, and I want to hear their thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to open up this conversation, and we'll kind of see what God is doing through art in the church, what the church needs to do to open up to artists, and what the art world needs to do to open up to Christians. So that is the first episode. Subscribe if you feel so led. Comment. Love to hear from you guys. So we'll see you next time.